Hi, class. My name is Mark Zermer, and I'm bringing to you today a presentation called Liberating the Prisoners. That's right, Liberating the Prisoners. This is a research paper, and it's done for my thesis. It's done for the San Diego Christian College. And the reason for this research paper is because I have been studying in um, the rehabilitation programs for the last few years of my life. I went through a counselor's program to be able to work in places like Salvation Army, Volunteers of America, and the Rescue Mission San Diego. So by being able to go into these places and work, I have noticed that there are different programs going on that seem to really resonate with the clients. Now, having been in prison and knowing what happens in prison, the kind of programs that they have there, some really do help the guys out. Some don't do so much. Now, the state government is really interested in finding out what does work. So, in my presentation, um, I have come to find out that there are 6,741,000 offenders in jail. Now, if these are released and go back into jail while more are coming in, this number keeps growing. Now, we have 23.5 million that are in rehabilitation centers. And so, this problem that we're having in our society today is really costing the government and the people themselves a lot of money. So, what is it that can make people's lives better? What is it? What kind of programs can help these people? So, with around 30 million people in our nation who have chosen a destructive lifestyle, is there no hope for them? Is prison and rehabilitation centers going to be their home for life? Or how can there be a way to help them who know no other way to live? In my presentation, um, I have come to find out that when prisons first started, they were a place of punishment. And they didn't want to reform or restore people, it was more of a penalty. So when they found out that by not trying to help them, they were all coming back in. And when they found out by not trying to help them, they went back out into the community and did those same things again. They decided we need education. We need education in the prisons. We need good education in the rehabilitation programs. So, as they have started to work on these different programs, um, they're coming to find out that there's a spiritual need inside of each and every one of us. And that spiritual need needs to be met. So the religious community has been sending in church services. The religious community has been helping with different programs. Um, you know, it's amazing. There's a book called Redeemed and Unredeemable by Thomas Horn and Donna Howell. And they study some of the most violent cases that these criminals have done. And they have come to find out that if spirituality is brought to them, there's a chance, there's a hope for them. So, do educational and faith based programs change the attitudes and characters of those dealing with the prison and rehabilitation experience? And what does the relationship between the prison's inmates or clients' degree of faith after participating in the program have to do with their change in character, their change in their attitudes, and how does that regard their future success after being released? So, searching the reasons why prison experience can be a good or a bad one has become kind of an obsession that I have in trying to help others. So, I understand that there is a need to help others. So, if a program can come in and actually change somebody, change their heart, change their inner core, then they may be able to go out and live a good life. We are here to help each other, but many do not see it like that. They don't want to help. They say criminals are bad people, period. But we all have a sinful nature. Now, many don't want to say sinful. Well, we could say we have a bad character nature and that we do bad things sometimes. So, how do we learn to do the right things? How do we learn? Well, I've come to find that when you're searching the spiritual things, then changes can happen. Now, prison fellowship was started by Charles Colson, 1976. And he started it because he was actually in prison. Charles Colson, a presidential aide, gets convicted of a crime and gets sent into prison. When he sees the hopelessness of these people, and when he sees that there is such a spiritual need there, when he got out, his main mission was to work with those people, with those hopeless offenders, right? So, um, when he started this prison fellowship, he invited many churches, many different ministries to come and help with him. And so, by what they've been doing, is they've been bringing in some hope into the prisons. And by doing this, they have started to cut the recidivism of these guys coming out and going back in and coming out and going back in. So there's another book that was written by Jennifer Furriel, and she gives an inside story of meeting and getting to know the offenders. And she says, my perspective on our justice system shifted. And I became concerned that if there was not a systematic change in the way we think socially and judicially, we were looking at global failure. That's right, global failure, not just community breakdown. And you can find that in her book, Furiel. It's 2002. Um, she just has a great story of going in and seeing what really happens in the prisons. Now, for me to understand how and what really works, I would need to have to get out there and do some surveys and interviews. So I have done that. And, one of the first and most extensive faith-based programs that came out of Prison Fellowship in 1997 was called the Inner Change Freedom Initiative. Now, this program was started in Texas, and they took a whole yard of the prison and they put it especially for this program. Now, over the course of 6 years spent observing and evaluating this program, they came to the conclusion that this faith-based program was consistently open, positive, supportive, and nurturing. So, to understand why there are some of these things working and some of these things that don't work, we really have to get into a type of survey that will help us to understand this. So I put together a questionnaire, and this questionnaire was for people coming out of prisons, out of rehabilitation centers. They were for staff people that work in these places. Um, they were for community people. And what I have come to find out is that the faith based programs were the ones that were getting the most votes. They were the ones that people say are working the best. And why is that? Well, we got to get to the spirit of things. And if we understand spiritual things, then it's the spirit that moves us. And if the spirit is moving us in the right direction, then there is hope. Now, many will say, but I don't really know how to have faith, or I don't really know how to believe in God, or I really don't know what you mean by religion or religious things. Well, we're talking about spiritual things. Spiritual things have been around forever. The Indians believed in spirits, but there is one spirit, the Spirit of God, who is part of creation, who is part of everything that can live within us. So um, we have to learn about spiritual things in order to become spiritual people. And that is something that's not taught. It's not taught in our educational system. It's not taught in our vocational education. It's not taught in our high schools, our colleges. It's not taught anywhere. Many people go to church to find out about spiritual things, right? Well, many people don't want to go to church either. So, how do we bring this all about? This change where people can learn about their spirit and how their spirit works. And it's been very interesting for me to know that you know, prisons and rehabilitation places, they can be places that build up monsters. Um, they can be places that build up spiritual people. So we have been working with this one survey. It works with educational programs, vocational programs, and faith based programs. And after doing my studies and my research on this, there has come to the conclusion that faith based programs have worked. 35% agree, 23% strongly agree, only 12% strongly disagree, and 12% disagree. 18% stay neutral. Now, with 35 and 23% on the stronger agreement, I think that we've got something that's working. As we went in to ask some of the staff and the volunteers, how is it working? Well, educational, they gave kind of an average that so so. On vocational, it's not working that well. But on faith based, they're strongly agreeing that this kind of program works. This kind of program helps to change character and helps to change somebody from the inside to the out. So, as I've done this research, I really have come to the conclusion that we need more faith based programs working today in our prisons and in our rehabilitation centers. And we need for people to understand themselves, understand their God, understand the people around them. And in a spiritual way, we have to get out of ourselves and look at the others and be able to help them. So, volunteers are needed. There's a whole lot of work to be done in this area. And I am hoping to be part of that work. So I thank you so much for listening to me today. I thank you that you could come to understand what a faith based spiritual type program can do for you, for your family, your kids, for everyone around you. That once you learn about these spiritual things, that you can become a spiritual being, someone who learns to love, to have compassion, to have humility, to have those things that we need in our lives, to make our lives more important to others and to be helpful to others. So I thank you for listening today, and God bless you all.